tell me about this utilization chart here.
Yeah, so this is something important to add because people throw out utilization rates, 30% up to 65%, let's say, right? And it's important to keep in mind just how many hours a day that is. So, for example, on the left, 30% utilization is 7.2 hours a day. And
Mhm.
that leaves that dark section there above the blue bar as downtime. And so the question is, what else can cybercabs be used for during that downtime besides just charging and cleaning? Right. So there's two things that come to mind. One is distributed inference. You can use the powerful AI chip for something, right? And if you combine millions of robotaxis together, that's a pretty powerful supercomputer.
A
And
little
then
bit.
secondly, could you use the vehicles for something else? And this is the idea behind package delivery. So just again want to mention that I think it's important to realize that there's a significant opportunity here to use cybercabs for multi-purposes.
So then we're talking about utilization with packages, which is basically this chart plus another set of colored bars representing some amount of package delivery. Very straightforward.
Correct, and what you see instantly with this chart is that at low utilizations, that allows you to use quite a bit of time for package delivery. Also, there's still plenty of downtime. We're only using half of that downtime, original downtime of over 16 hours a day for package delivery. The other half is still downtime. But you can see then that the total utilization, the yellow plus the blue bars, is more uniform across. It rises a little bit as we go from 30% to 65%.
Hmm.
But the package delivery part is utilizing a good portion of that unused time on the left side there. So
Yes.
it improves overall utilization.
Having more time available means it's easier to schedule something into that time.
Sorry, I'm jumping ahead of you here,
Okay.
but this chart shows the number of trips and miles per day in terms of what that would work out to. So at 30% utilization, you're looking at 164 miles a day for passengers and about 20 trips. Again, depending on your assumptions for trip length and speed of travel and that kind of thing.
Where did your assumptions come from?
I believe I had, I think, 25 miles an hour, and the average trip
Oh.
length, I think, was like 3 miles or something like that. It was fairly short.
So this is the first place where I would push back. I think this lowest number of 19.6 trips per day is very high. I don't think that's a low number. I think that's a medium to high number. And 42 and a half trips a day, I think, is bordering on impossible, even in Manhattan. And it's certainly impossible across the fleet. I've seen people say, yeah, but I know a company that runs cars 24 hours a day. I go, yeah, but how many? What percentage are running at 4 in the morning? Some, not all. It gets tricky. That's why it's so beneficial to charge during those hours. And also power rates are probably lower then. Uh, Tesla Robotaxi Network Passenger Plus delivery. Okay. And this is, again, when you get into delivery logistics, it becomes more algorithm driven. I think packages are a lot more consistent than people across days of the week.
The beautiful thing about packages is you can bunch them up,
Yeah.
right? With people, it's typically one person at a time unless you're sharing, but let's just assume they're not.
Mhm.
So for the people part of this model, I've assumed that if it's a 5-mile average trip length, then the reposition distance is about 3.3 miles.
Mhm.
So there's some deadhead miles in there. Now, the good news with that is if you've got packages, you might actually be able to use some of those miles potentially productively.
Mm.
But at the very least, if you've got a vehicle that has some packages in it, they may not need to be delivered right now. You could take a person if that person's close by and then
Right.
deliver those packages, later
It's
potentially.
like Uber Pool. I know people who have used it, but I know it's not super popular in very
Yep.
many markets.
Yeah. So this slide, sorry, I keep interrupting you as you go to describe the slide, but this slide is showing you the revenue components, and the largest portion of this is the trips revenue. The other bars on here show the other potential revenue sources, but not really sized, I think, to what they could be. I'm just sort of showing them on here to say, hey, these exist. Let's not forget that there could be advertising revenue. Let's not forget that there could be entertainment and connectivity revenue, distributed inference revenue, and then what I call curated experiences. If you're traveling in a new city, that FSD could act as a tour guide essentially, or If you wanted to do a restaurant tour or a bar hopping tour, the vehicle could be that tour guide for you.
Yes. And what an amazing tour guide it would be when you get a driving tour. It says, what do you want to see? Do you want to see homes? Do you want to see churches? Do you want to see history? And you click on homes and this one's boring. Skip this one. Go to the next one. Can you show me more modern stuff? There's a lot of opportunity, but I think your biggest understatement on here is the potential for distributed inference. We don't know what that market will be, but I would be surprised if it's not something that they want to tap into in a profitable way.
Yeah.
Okay.
Now this chart's showing the same thing, but if you add on delivery services
Mhm.
and
Mhm.
some assumptions about that. And so you can see here that at low levels of utilization for passenger revenue, that allows more time for deliveries. And again, it brings up that revenue curve. So instead of the vehicles earning 60,000 at a 30% utilization, you might take it to $100,000 a year in revenue.
Mhm. Mhm.
Right, and at the most utilization, you've got 65% utilization, where the revenue for passenger fares is like 100,000, and you
Mhm.
get a little bit of extra for delivery. So the difference between now a low utilized vehicle, 30%, versus a higher one at 65% isn't that much different anymore
Mhm.
from a revenue perspective, if you can utilize the vehicle for these other things.
So what I hear you saying is that in your modeling, at worst, there is 100,000 revenue potential per year per vehicle.
Yes, and that's assuming from a passenger fare, it's a base fare of $1 a mile, base fare of it $1, and a cost per mile of $1 per mile,
Okay. And
okay?
yeah.
So that's the blue bars.
Mhm.
The delivery services part, um, it's a little bit of a shot in the dark in terms of what Tesla would be able to earn for delivering so many packages, but I think those numbers are reasonable.
How many miles a year are you thinking the Cybercab is going to move with passengers?
Essentially, at 30% utilization, it's about 60,000 miles a year, and at 65% utilization, you're looking at about 129, 130,000 miles a year.
And are those paid miles or do they include the deadhead
Total
miles?
That's total miles,
Mhm.
and again, about 40% of those total miles are unpaid miles,
Mhm.
deadhead miles, is
Mhm.
my assumption.
I do think these numbers are too optimistic. I don't think there's enough peak hours in the day. Certainly, you could have vehicles that would do it, but they would not be the average. The average, I think, would be quite a bit lower than that. So I will tell you now that that is one area where I will disagree with you on uh, how how I've run my numbers.
Yeah,
Talk
just
talk to me.
just on that
Yes.
point, Brian,
Yes.
I have discussed this with a number of Uber drivers, and of course, it depends on what market you're in. But the feedback from them was that my assumptions for the number of rides in a certain period of time was not out of line.
Hmm.
Now, of course, not every market is, New York or Chicago or San Francisco or whatever. So I recognize that in different markets, the pace of the number of rides might be a lot lower.
Hmm. And if obviously the weekend of South by Southwest, you're going to have a lot more
Yeah.
fares and probably short ones, but tough to say. I would want to see the high level data rather than because you can talk to drivers who have a variety of experience that may not always be representative of the greater picture. So looking at this here, tell me what we're looking at.
So this is just sort of behind the scenes of the model, looking at the different utilization rates,
Hmm.
what the costs are.
Right.
Now, if we work out from the bottom, I've got FSD cost. If we're including package delivery, this is the wrong term. This is the cost of Optimus to do the last few
See,
yards of delivery.
I see.
So $10,000 for Optimus to ride along and deliver the package from the vehicle to the doorstep. That's included. That's if we're factoring package delivery. Otherwise, you've got the vehicle costs of about $9,000 a year. Of course, a higher utilization, you're going to wear those vehicles out faster, so those costs are higher, and so on. Charging costs, cleaning, parking, insurance, marketing,
Right.
payment processing, etcetera. There's a whole bunch of charges in here.
Right. And I wanted
Tires
to
and
go through
maintenance is a big
those.
one.
I wanted
Okay.
to go through those. First of all, I have not seen very many models that include the payment processing. That is a real cost. That is immutable. That is something that everyone has to deal with. Um, and it's why many restaurants give you a cash discount, or just add 1 to 3% onto your bill if you're using a card. Payment processing costs money. Um, EV taxes and other. So that's like your car tabs, I'm assuming.
Yeah, that's just sort of saying that as we move to an all EV world, we're going to have to replace the gasoline tax with something. And some states have already done this.
Hmm. And I
And
think
just building it.
this number is reasonable, um, because it's a lightweight vehicle. We're not talking about dump trucks. We're talking about small vehicles. Tires and maintenance. I assume that number you're using is including the maintenance on the bots.
The maintenance on the bots is sort of separate. So this $10,000 bot cost is sort of the cost for Tesla's RoboTaxi division to pay Tesla's Optimus division
Sure,
10,000 a year. So
sure.
it's kind of an intercompany transfer. It's kind of not relevant, but if you're just looking at RoboTaxi, it is relevant.
But on the tires and maintenance at 7,500
I'm
tire.
assuming that cost for all 4 tires is $3,000,
Mm,
and maybe that's high for a Cybercab, and that you need to replace them every 60,000 miles.
mhm.
So then it's just basically driven based on how many miles the vehicle's traveling. So as you can see there, as you go across, that cost goes up as the mileage increases.
Mhm. What is other operating costs? Uh, what is
Just
that?
a plug for other things I haven't considered,
Sure,
600 bucks.
sure.
Yep.
My concern on that is that we know that Uber was taking basically half the fare when the fares were $3 and they still weren't showing a profit. And yes, a lot of that was marketing, but a lot of it was just business is expensive. Doing business costs a lot of money. Uh, on insurance at 1,500, I would argue that's too low, but not by a consequential amount. Um, Parking at 600, parking will be an interesting one because it's not a parking spot that you need. It's probably a depot that you need. You're certainly going to need locations, and figuring out how to balance that cost that might be a bit low. Um, I did want to say on cleaning, I've seen too many people who say, "Nope, the cleaning is free." I go, "Cleaning's not free." No, I'll clean it myself. I'm like, "Great, I'll bring mine by and you can clean it for me." Because when you've got 30, you can't, and now you're a janitor. That's your
Yeah.
job. Uh, so and cleaning I think can come down over time, but I think in the beginning you need to be realistic about it. Uh, Charging, um, your numbers don't seem too crazy. What were you doing? 5 miles to the kilowatt and what, 10
I've got a
cents?
40 kilowatt battery, and I've got 10 cents per kilowatt hour for Tesla, and
Mhm.
I've got a range of 300 miles per vehicle. So again, it's just a function of the mileage. And
Yes.
I would also say, Brian, that keep in mind that this is a unit economic model, unit economic cost model. So I'm not suggesting this is the economics for Tesla on day one.
No, definitely
That
not on day one. We know production costs won't be under 50 for the first however many models. You got to get there. Uh,
Yeah. So this is at some point in time, and I haven't defined that, but at some point in time when you've got some scale, in my view, this is how the model could look at various utilization rates.
mhm.
The number of trips and the number of miles and so on is purely driven based on the trip length, the speed of travel, and the sort of what I call reposition distance or the deadhead miles. It's
Right.
purely a function of that, right? And so at 30% utilization, again, the vehicle downtime is 16.8 hours a day.
Right.
Now, clearly, the demand for travel isn't uniform through the day. There's peaks and valleys, right? So we have to take that into account. But the model is simply a function of those parameters, and it calculates the number of trips and the distance traveled.